July 20th, 1944. At 12:42 p.m., a bomb exploded inside the Wolf's Lair headquarters. Adolf Hitler survived the blast with minor burns and shredded trousers. Most men would collapse. Hitler did the opposite. 4 hours later, he stood on a train platform. He adjusted his uniform and prepared to greet Benito Mussolini. The dictator acted as if the assassination attempt never happened. He shook hands. He walked through the debris. He spoke with a calm voice, but this was a mask. Behind the scenes, Hitler issued a single command. He ordered the most brutal manhunt in the history of the Third Reich. Who were the targets? At first glance, the direct conspirators, but in reality, anyone Hitler no longer trusted. The Gestapo received orders to arrest thousands. They filled the prisons. They prepared the gallows. There was no turning back. One name stood out on the list of traitors: Erich Hoepner. He was not a junior officer or a radical student. Hoepner was a decorated colonel-general. He had commanded hundreds of thousands of troops across the Soviet plains. He was a veteran of the invasion of France. He was a pillar of the German war machine. Why did Hitler turn on his own general? The Führer demanded total loyalty to his maps. Hoepner chose to look at the reality of the front lines. In the freezing winter outside Moscow, Hoepner saw his soldiers dying in the snow. He ordered a retreat to save his men. He disobeyed a direct stand-fast order. Hitler never forgot the insult. The failed bomb plot gave him the excuse he needed. The camera records the final result: Hoepner, standing in a courtroom without a belt or tie. He looked like a prisoner, not a general. The regime stripped him of his rank and his dignity. Events accelerated. The trial lasted only hours. The verdict was predetermined. Hitler wanted more than an execution. He wanted a signal to all other commanders. The footage shows the grim reality of the People's Court. Judge Roland Freisler screamed at the accused. Hoepner remained silent. The guards led him to Plötzensee prison. They used thin wire instead of rope. They filmed the entire process for Hitler to watch in his private cinema. It was a warning to the entire German officer corps. Thus ended the career of a man who prioritized lives over a dictator's delusion. The bodies were removed at night. September 14th, 1886. On this day, Erich Hoepner was born in Frankfurt an der Oder. The city sat directly on the border between Germany and Poland. 4 years later, his family moved to Berlin. The move placed young Erich in the Kaiserin Augusta Gymnasium. This was an elite institution. It was reserved for the sons of Germany's highest educated class. In 1910, Hoepner married Irma Gebauer. She was the daughter of a wealthy industrial manufacturer. The marriage produced 2 children. At the time, they were symbols of a stable future. Later, these children would pay a heavy price for their father's actions. Hoepner focused on his career. In 1913, he enrolled in the Prussian War College in Berlin. This was the most prestigious military academy in the German Empire. It was a factory for elite commanders. Why did he choose the military? At first glance, it was a path to status. But in reality, it was a preparation for total war. Events accelerated. On July 28, 1914, the First World War began. Hoepner deployed to the Western Front. He served as a company commander in the mud and the trenches. He moved fast. He proved his competence in combat and earned a promotion to captain of cavalry. The sound of artillery stopped on November 11, 1918. The war was over. Hoepner returned home with the Iron Cross First and Second Class pinned to his chest. These were the highest symbols of service in a war that killed millions. The German Empire collapsed. The Weimar Republic emerged from the ruins. But Hoepner's career did not end with the Kaiser. He remained in the Reichswehr. This was the new German army. The Treaty of Versailles restricted this force to only 100,000 men. The footage from this era shows small units, limited equipment, and strict discipline. For an officer like Hoepner, the restrictions were an advantage. A smaller force meant less competition. It meant faster advancement for those who stayed. But this was only the beginning. In 1933, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party seized power. The political landscape shifted overnight. The German military began a massive transformation. The era of restrictions was over. The story of the professional soldier was about to turn into the story of a war criminal. 1936, Erich Hoepner reaches the rank of General Major. Within 2 years, he takes command of the 1st Light Division. This unit is an experimental armored force. It serves as the blueprint for the Panzer divisions that will soon sweep across the European continent. Early 1938, political tremors fracture the German military hierarchy. War Minister Werner von Blomberg marries a woman with a criminal record. The scandal breaks. His credibility vanishes. He is forced to resign immediately. What followed was even more calculated. Army Commander-in-Chief Werner von Fritsch is accused of homosexuality. The charges are fake. The Nazi regime manufactured the evidence to purge him. Fritsch steps down. How did Hitler react to the vacuum? He used the chaos to decapitate the old guard. He removed seasoned commanders. He installed loyalists who valued ideology over strategy. Hitler then declared himself head of the armed forces. The final barrier to his absolute power was gone. Hoepner watched these events from the inside. He saw military competence discarded for political zealotry. He documented the shift with growing concern. When the Sudetenland crisis began, the risk of a general European war became real. Hitler demanded territory from Czechoslovakia. Hoepner decided to act. He joined the Oster conspiracy. This was a secret cell of high-ranking officers and conservatives. Their goal was a military coup. If Hitler gave the order to invade, they would strike. They believed the Führer was leading Germany into a war that would end in total national destruction. Hoepner was the plan's physical hammer. His role was specific and dangerous. He was to march the 1st Light Division directly into Berlin. His mission: seize the capital and neutralize the SS units stationed there. The sound of tank treads on Berlin's pavement was meant to signal the end of the Nazi Party. At first glance, the regime was about to fall. But in reality, the conspirators were sidelined by international diplomacy. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and French Premier Édouard Daladier arrived in Munich. They chose a policy of appeasement. The Munich Agreement was signed. Hitler received the Sudetenland without firing a single bullet. The pretext for the coup vanished. The conspirators went silent. The tanks stayed in their hangars. The plot dissolved. Hitler's prestige reached a new peak, and the window for internal resistance closed. September 30th, 1938. The Munich Agreement was signed. Britain and France handed the Sudetenland to Hitler without firing a single shot. This diplomatic move destroyed the internal German conspiracy against the Führer. The generals no longer had a reason to revolt. In March 1939, Hoepner led his panzer forces across the Czech border. Resistance was non-existent. 1 month later, the regime rewarded him. He received a promotion to General of Cavalry. September 1st, 1939. This date changed the world. Nazi Germany invaded Poland and ignited the Second World War. Before the first shells fell, Hoepner addressed his soldiers. He gave a direct order. Their mission demanded the merciless annihilation of the enemy. The 16th Army Corps moved with speed. The footage shows columns of dust and steel moving east. In 7 days, they covered 230 kilometers. They reached the outskirts of Warsaw as part of the 10th Army. By October, Hoepner held the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. It was a reward for his tactical efficiency. But this was only the beginning. May 10, 1940. Germany launched the invasion of France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. The campaign lasted only 6 weeks. These nations collapsed under the weight of the Blitzkrieg. Hoepner's corps joined the 6th Army. They spearheaded the attacks on Liège, Dunkirk, and Dijon. In May, a new unit joined Hoepner's 16th Corps. It was the SS Division Totenkopf. This was the Death's Head Division. They were an elite Waffen-SS unit composed of concentration camp guards. Conflict started immediately. Hoepner was a traditional officer. The SS were ideological fanatics. Tension between the Army and the SS grew as they pushed toward the coast. The Totenkopf Division would soon become synonymous with war crimes and extreme brutality. As the Battle of Dunkirk unfolded, the reports reached the commander's desk. Hoepner read the accounts of what his SS troops were doing. The reality was grim. May 24th, 1940. On this day, Erich Hoepner issued a direct order. The instruction was clear. Any soldier caught mistreating prisoners would face an immediate court-martial. No exceptions, no delays. 3 days later, the order was ignored. Soldiers from the Totenkopf division executed nearly 100 surrendered British prisoners. This took place in the village of Le Paradis. History calls it the Le Paradis Massacre. The footage would later show a field littered with bodies. Hoepner learned of the killings. He reacted by demanding a full investigation. He called for the dismissal of the SS division commander, Theodor Eicke. Hoepner wanted Eicke gone if the allegations were true. But Eicke did not back down. He defended himself to SS Chief Heinrich Himmler. Eicke made a specific claim. He argued that British forces used illegal dum-dum bullets. He insisted these rounds caused excessive injuries to his men. It was a lie. Despite the evidence of a war crime, Eicke and his division faced zero consequences. The matter was buried. The files were closed. Hoepner never joined the Nazi Party. He continued to despise Eicke. He labeled him a butcher. Hoepner saw Eicke as a man with a reckless disregard for human life. His contempt for the Waffen-SS deepened with every report. At first glance, a professional officer corps, but in reality, a system protected by Himmler. July 1940. France fell. Hoepner received a promotion to Colonel-General. The German High Command began a new project, Operation Barbarossa. This was the code name for the invasion of the Soviet Union. Hoepner took a lead role. He commanded the 4th Panzer Group. His objective was Leningrad. He operated as part of Army Group North under Field Marshal Wilhelm von Lieb. The plan was massive, thousands of tanks, millions of men. May 1941. Hoepner issued a chilling directive to his troops. The tone had changed. He wrote that the war against Russia was an essential phase. He called it an existential struggle for the German people. It was more than a military campaign. Hoepner described it as an age-old conflict of Germanic peoples against Slavs. He claimed it was a defense of European culture against a Muscovite Asian flood. He spoke of repulsing Jewish Bolshevism. The goal was total. This fight aimed at the destruction of present-day Russia. Hoepner ordered his men to act with unprecedented harshness. Every combat action was now a matter of survival. There was no turning back. June 22, 1941, 3 in the morning. On this Sunday, the German war machine began Operation Barbarossa. Action followed one rule: the total and merciless annihilation of the enemy. 3 million German soldiers moved forward. They did not move alone. Finnish, Romanian, Hungarian, Italian, Slovak, and Croatian divisions joined the invasion. They crashed into Soviet territory along a front thousands of miles long. The collapse was immediate. Within weeks, German divisions captured Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. General Erich Hoepner led the 4th Panzer Group through the Baltic states. His tanks moved fast. His goal was Leningrad. The campaign started with a series of tactical victories. German units seized critical bridges over the Dvina River in northern Latvia. The path to the north was open. In July 1941, Hoepner issued a specific order. He told his troops to treat loyal populations fairly, but there was a condition. If sabotage occurred, the blame was already assigned. The army charged all resistance to communists and Jews. This was not a standard war. It was a racial and political purge. The 4th Panzer Group followed the Commissar order. This directive required the immediate execution of all captured Red Army political officers. It was a direct violation of international law. The soldiers did not hesitate. Between July 2nd and July 8th, the 4th Panzer Group executed 101 commissars. By July 19th, the count reached 172. The reports were cold and statistical. By late July, Hoepner reached his position. His tanks sat south and east of Narva, Estonia. He was in striking distance of Leningrad. But a problem emerged. The 4th Panzer Group lacked the strength for a final assault. The city was too large. The defense was too stubborn. On August 29th, Field Marshal von Lieb changed the plan. He ordered a total blockade. The German command expected the Soviets to abandon the city under the pressure of starvation. The siege began. But Hoepner would not see the end of it. In late September, the 4th Panzer Group received new orders. They transferred to Army Group Center. Their new task was a direct advance toward Moscow. The war was moving deeper into the interior. There was no turning back. October 1941. General Erich Hoepner prepares for Operation Typhoon. His target, Moscow. The 4th Panzer Group moves fast. By early October, German tanks encircle the city of Vyazma. They cut every supply line. They sever every radio link. The defense of the Soviet capital is collapsing. But the advance stops. Field Marshal von Kluge, commander of the 4th Army, orders a pause. He wants to consolidate. Hoepner is furious. He believes his tanks can destroy the trapped Soviets and seize Moscow at the same time. The tension between the two commanders becomes a rift. Hoepner wants momentum, Kluge wants order. October 7th, the first snow falls. It looks like winter, but it feels like a trap. The snow melts instantly into thick black mud. German tanks churn the ground into a swamp. Armor slows to a crawl. The Soviets use the delay to retreat. They regroup. They dig in. The Vyazma pocket is finally cleared on October 14th. Other units push forward. Then, the real enemy arrives. Rasputitsa, the season of mud. Roads become impassable rivers of sludge. Engines fail. Axles snap. Hoepner reaches a point 30 kilometers from Moscow. He can see the city. But his men are ghosts. The 4th Panzer Group is worn down to the bone. They lack fuel. They lack ammunition. The Soviet line is no longer breaking. It is hardening. By early November, the breakthrough becomes an impossibility. December 5th, 1941. The temperature drops. The momentum is dead. Hoepner looks at the grim reports from the front. Moscow is out of reach. He halts the attack. On that exact day, the Red Army strikes back. A massive counteroffensive begins, January 1942. The German line is overstretched. Hoepner asks Kluge for permission to withdraw. Hitler has issued a stand-fast order, not one step back. Kluge wavers. He tells Hoepner he will speak to the Führer. He tells Hoepner to prepare. Hoepner does not wait for the paperwork. He wants to save his men from slaughter. On January 8th, he orders the retreat. Kluge panics. To protect himself, he informs Hitler immediately. The Führer's reaction is a tantrum of rage. Hoepner stands his ground. He tells Kluge directly, "I have duties higher than those to you or the Führer. I have a duty to the troops entrusted to me." Hitler strikes back. He dismisses Hoepner for cowardice. He strips him of his rank. He cancels his pension. He forbids him from wearing the uniform. It is a total violation of military law. Hoepner sues the state in a civilian court. He wins. The judges rule that Hitler cannot legally seize a general's pension. The war turns. June 6, 1944, Operation Overlord begins. Allied boots hit the sand in Normandy. A second front is open. In Germany, the High Command realizes the end is coming. They see the disaster. They decide Hitler must die. July 20th, 1944, the Wolf's Lair. Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg places a briefcase under a heavy oak table. Inside is a bomb. He cannot arm the second explosive in time. He leaves the room. A staff officer moves the briefcase behind a thick wooden leg. The blast destroys the room. But Hitler survives. The conspirators in Berlin don't know the truth yet. Communication is cut. Stauffenberg returns to coordinate Operation Valkyrie. The reserve army begins to move. At first glance, a successful coup, but in reality, a disorganized disaster. Delays paralyze the conspirators. Conflicting orders sow confusion. Then, the radio speaks. Hitler is alive. The plot collapses in hours. The Gestapo begins the hunt. Hoepner was slated to be the commander-in-chief of the home territory. They find him at his home on July 21st. They take him to a cell. They torture him. They offer him a pistol to end his own life. Hoepner refuses. He demands a trial. The scene shifts to the Nazi People's Court. The judge is Roland Freisler. He is a fanatic. He screams at the defendants. Hoepner is forced to stand without his false teeth. He wears oversized, ragged clothes. He is denied any dignity. The cruelty extends to his bloodline. Under the law of collective punishment, the Gestapo arrests his wife. They arrest his daughter, his son, and his siblings. The women go to Ravensbrück. His son is sent to Buchenwald. August 8, 1944. Hoepner is 57 years old. Freisler screams the sentence, "Death by hanging." Hitler adds a specific instruction: the traitors must be hung like cattle. The execution takes place at Plötzensee prison. The room contains meat hooks and thin hemp rope. There is no drop to break the neck. It is slow strangulation. The footage shows the prisoners struggling for 20 minutes. The general, who once commanded hundreds of thousands, dies on a hook. He is abandoned by the state he served. He is buried in an unmarked grave. The story ends here.